Hi, we're talking to Ricci Wilding, Information Governance Manager at Smartdesk today. We're talking about the common pitfalls of information governance and data protection. So what are the common pitfalls that charities and non-profits seem to sort of come across mostly with their information governance and data protection?
The most common issue that I come across is that there is a bit of a lack of information governance structure, in order to enable really good sort of information governance strategy, or in order to sort of make compliance a thing that happens. Really, that needs to be driven from the top down. We have sort of documents in place that we can use or that we can provide to charities in order to sort of give them an idea on what their structure should look like. That's one of the biggest issues that I've come across in recent years, is that it isn't that the task of information governance or data protection isn't actually allocated to an individual, or it might be allocated to an individual, but they haven't really got much experience in data protection, and they're not really sure what they should be doing. And it's usually bolted onto an additional or their primary role as well. So they end up having to juggle two full-time roles effectively, which isn't effective at all. One of the other things that I come across in my day-to-day work is that there's a lack of training across the organisation or charity. And when I say a lack of training, they sometimes do provide some data protection training or information governance training, but there is just a lack of real charity-specific training that's offered. It doesn't often cover things like fundraising or, marketing in great detail, which is two of the things that all of the charities we work with are doing to a great extent, effectively. Also, there's not much training around how to gather consent effectively and how you should be working with service users, people who might be, living with an illness, for example, or they might have a specific condition that they're living with, and they, and it's about making sure that the charities are managing this information in a way that, retains that individual's trust. Other things that we come across is that there's just not enough awareness of data protection at the charities we work with.
So where do you start with the awareness, especially with a small charity? How does that work?
First thing that we encourage charities to do is to have a complete audit, like a data protection audit. And what this means is that we would interview key stakeholders, different people across various departments, and we'd try to understand how they process personal data and the sort of work that they're doing, and try to sort of understand what processes they have in place, and really ask them any questions, or ask them if they have any questions for us, so we can sort of try and pick out the areas that they need to focus on. One thing to take note of as well is that a charity will never, or any organisation will never be 100% compliant with data protection legislation. There's always something going on that somebody doesn't know about, or there's something that, they might have forgotten to do something, or it's just never going to be 100% compliant. This is an ongoing piece of work that needs constant attention, effectively.
So that was one of my questions. How can a charity be IG compliant, information governance compliant?
The best way to make this ongoing piece of work most effective is to keep raising awareness, and look at data protection as a way to protect the people that you're working with, and not look at it as a blocker. So if people look at it like that, usually it will put them off of wanting to get this work done. But I think that the best way of moving forward with this work is to keep raising awareness. Make it a part of your agendas. If people are having sort of quarterly meetings or monthly meetings, make it a part of the agenda. Look at what different projects are coming up, or potential gaps in processes and things like that.
So you're looking at processes, and you're saying it's an ongoing piece of work. There's something that some people have asked me in the past is what DPIA is, the Data Protection Impact Assessment. Is that part of the work that you do as well?
Yeah, so a Data Protection Impact Assessment is a really key process that every organisation should have in place. You should do one at the beginning of each sort of processing activity or project that you think might involve a higher risk. And when we say high risk, what we mean is there might be a high risk to the rights and freedoms of the individuals that you're processing the personal data about. This document isn't, a tick box exercise. It's something that, needs to be looked at as a way to identify and reduce or potentially eliminate risks.
That sounds like a lot of, like you say, a lot of work that needs to be ongoing within the charities. How do you think IG can be most successful within an organisation?
Best way for a charity to, for IG to be successful is for it to come from the top down. So it needs to be coming from the senior leadership team and trustees. They need to be driving this forward and making sure that they're making this part of the work that everybody's doing. Because if it doesn't come from the top down and it's being pushed from the bottom up, it often sort of gets caught and people sort of just ignore it, or it just falls to the side. And it does need everybody's buy-in.
I think that's the thing, like you were saying, everyone needs to be an understanding from the top down, from the CEO, from the trustees, sort of led by them, and then everybody within the organisation needs to buy into this. What's the best way to contact you if anyone has a question about their IG or data protection within their organisation?
The best email address to get in touch with us on is solutions@smartdesk.co.uk, and we can book in some time for like a free consultation and understand what your needs are.
Thanks very much, Ricci. That's been great.